Foreword. On a hazy mid-October afternoon in the year 1928, a huge object, very like a fat flying slug, moved slowly over the city of New York and disappeared in the direction of Lakehurst. The sight of an airship was not unusual to the eyes turned up from those streets and windows and housetops. Yet the owner of practically every pair of eyes that followed the Graf Zeppelin across the sky must have realized that history was preparing to turn another leaf. First commercial aircraft to reach New York via the Atlantic, shrieked all the extra additions, and the word commercial suggested at once how especially important the event would prove to the city that dominates the world's commerce from its lofty watchtowers by the mouth of the Hudson River. The men who open their morning papers today on the banks of almost any other river, whether it be the Thames or the Seine, the Tiber, or even the mysterious Nile, know a great deal about the commercial metropolis of the world. Sometimes they try to tell its story in the height of the buildings, in the millions of its people who crowd its subways and jam its streets, in the almost incredible figures of the wealth that pours in a golden stream through its markets. Often they forget that the Thames and the Seine, the Tiber and the Nile, had been flowing 10 and even 20 centuries ere the modest settlements that fringed their banks had grown to famous cities whose towers and palaces have found an abiding place in the history of man. On that October afternoon of 1928, the adventurous Graf Zeppelin moved slowly above a city that 4 centuries ago was not even in existence. It must have seemed very much in existence to the Zeppelin passengers as they looked down through the cabin windows. There below, Sandy Hook opened a first gateway from the ocean into the great landlocked harbor, and beyond the narrow channel separating Staten Island from its sister borough of Brooklyn, Manhattan's newest buildings pushed farther than ever through the haze, while its wharves lay like giant fringe on the waters of a bay fed by 13 streams and rivers. Had the Zeppelin flown low enough, her passengers might even have heard the whir and grind of the steam shovels, the sound of New York tossing its traditions ruthlessly into the air and devouring its own landmarks. When the San Franciscan or the Bostonian thinks of New York as commercial, which the city most truly is, he often sighs and adds, "But how material?" Yet New York has never been other than careless of its materials. The face of the city is constantly changing. It is like the magic old Camelot of King Arthur, built to music, built forever, and therefore never built at all. The only thing that has never changed in the brief 3 centuries of its building is the tune to which stones have been set in place, torn out, and set again in a new pattern. New York is not a place, after all, but a kind of game, or better, a dream, an adventure. There are no New Yorkers in the sense that there are Londoners or Parisians or Romans. Anyone who has a 100-story imagination, reinforced with courage, alertness, and optimism, finds New York a career. The biography of this amazing city is necessarily a story of adventure, never a description of the laying out of streets and the preserving of relics. New York's famous men have been famous in some measure as they have caught and reflected the city's spirit. From the beginning, it has been commercial in the profounder meaning of that word, in the sense that commerce may be called the handmaiden of civilization itself. Always it has been a highway for commodities from every clime, for travelers from every land, for the cultures of many people. Out of these contracts have come wealth and power, and with them a quicker sympathy, a broader tolerance, and a deeper understanding. Within 3 centuries, a miracle has been wrought. Where stood a few straggling teepees, now towers the great metropolis of a nation, the first commercial city of the world.